Imagine a world without choices. Imagine you can't make your own decision. That wouldn't be a world for me. That wouldn't be a world for you. UIC. Tell them they're gonna be stronger. Together we can make it right. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I. Gonna be stronger together. Time we all just unify. Our purpose is a better Jamaica for you and I.
Hello and welcome everyone to our new episode or the latest episode in UIC Liberty TV. My name is Douglas Harper and we have a very interesting show for you guys tonight. Good night JMH, good night Lion Rule the Jungle. Glad to see you guys on. Yes, so we have a very interesting show for you tonight. A lot's been happening in Jamaica. Lots been happening over the weekend, and one particular news story that stood out this weekend is the wife of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Juliet Holness. She's also the MP for St. Andrew East Rural. She made a statement yesterday at a political gathering, and one of the things that she said was, you know, everywhere in her constituency that is unsafe to live, comrades live there. And so tonight we're going to be looking at why both governments over the last 78 years are still playing land games with the people for political mileage, right? Instead of providing a structured approach to giving the land back to the people of Jamaica, which is really what the people of Jamaica really, own the land of Jamaica. So we'll be having a special guest come on tonight. Her name is Miss Anna Mattis, and I'll introduce her a little later on. So she'll be coming on as well as Mr. Pattison to share their views and, on that specific topic and other things as we go along. All right, so guys, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We need as much help as you can. Spread the word of the UIC and spread the word of the Liberty TV channel. Big up Sarah Harper and President Mr. Pattison. Big up yourself, D. Desmond Mary, good night. Glad to see you on. Donovan Hoylett, good night, good night. Craig McKenzie, Sylvester Lawrence. All right, guys, so I'm going to get into it. So I'm going to start by playing the news story that brought the whole thing to light. And so we're going to play that, and then we're going to come back, introduce our guests, and talk about the subject matter. All right, so stand by.
It was a fiery Jamaica Labour Party Area Council 1 meeting on Sunday as MP for East Rural St. Andrew Juliet Holness underscored the legacy of the Andrew Holness-led administration, from housing and garbage collection to taking jabs at the opposition People's National Party. More in this report. A grand entrance for a grand occasion. One of the first face-to-face JLP Area Council meetings in Kingston since COVID-19. The main speaker, MP for East Rural St. Andrew Juliet Holness, was adamant to make her mark when she took the microphone.
Everywhere in my constituency that it is not safe to live, comrades live there. Anywhere where a river going to wash away, comrades live there. Anywhere that is a garbage dump, comrades live there. And it's not Labour Party put them there. I want people to start to look around. Life rough, yes, and some of us do have it hard, but start to look around.
message comes at a time when the government has been criticized for demolishing illegal structures in Clifton, St. Catherine. And so Mrs. Holness urged Jamaicans to reflect on the history of housing solutions put forward by the PNP.
Places they put people to live, they would never live for a minute. They don't even want to visit and walk through. So when I have people in my constituency and flood rivers come down and wash them away, and their leader come and tell them, don't move, stay right there. I recall Desmond Mackenzie saying to me years ago, I beg them to move. I find place to put them, and they refuse to move.
As she compared and contrasted the events of the past, she did not leave out the perennial problem of garbage collection. An island-wide shortage of garbage trucks has seen uncollected garbage piling up in many communities in recent months. However, Mrs. Holness believes the Andrew Holness-led administration did not create that problem, but rather found the solution.
Since then, the Jamaica Labour Party have turned over to NSWMA 64 garbage trucks. And you already heard the announcement. How much garbage truck on the way? Another 50 trucks. That is 114 trucks versus them who don't do nothing.
The meeting comes as the JLP gets set for its annual conference on November 20. And still
All right, so some of you are saying that you didn't see the video. Is that everyone? Is that the case, or everyone didn't see the video? You're saying you heard the audio, but you weren't seeing the video. Please let me know. Okay, well, while that's going on, you guys heard the audio, and the statement made by Mrs. Holness is, some are saying is unfortunate. I think it's more than unfortunate, but we're gonna get the views of our guests tonight on this. So we have as our guest Miss Donna Mattis, and she is an educator. She actually teaches grades 9 to 13 in our schools here in Jamaica. She's a blogger as well. She's an activist and also a member of the People's Anti-Corruption Movement. Welcome, Miss Donna Mattis. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me to be here.
You're welcome. And of course, we're going to bring in Mr. Pattison, who is the president of the UIC. You all should know this. Anyway, so good evening, Mr. Pattison. How are you? I think you're muted. I'm not hearing you.
Good evening, Mr. Harper. Good evening, Ms. Mattis. Good evening to all our viewers out there across the world. Good to be here with you tonight.
Okay, glad to have you both on. So I'd love to get both of you your views on this news story. I'll start with Ms. Mattis first.
Well, as you said, that it's more than unfortunate. That's what she said. I think that maybe Mrs. Hood's excuse will be that she was speaking at her party constituency, at a party constituency meeting. The thing is, though, crime is a monster in Jamaica. It's just today really. I was thinking about it, and I said it for a long while now. For a good while, every year the murder rate is over, say, 1,000 people. And if you calculate all of that and you realize how many people have died between X year and Y year, that's a lot of Jamaicans. And we're not, it's not a civil war. We're not at war, And for Mrs. Holness to tribalize crime, to divide it between the two parties, is just despicable. It's a despicable act. It's an insult. It is disrespectful to the people who have died. The many Jamaicans who have lost their life to crime in Jamaica. It is disrespectful to their family. It's unfeeling. It's divisive. It is dividing the nation between the two political parties. And most of all, it is not good governance. It's very poor governance, you know, and we need to get past this stage of tribalizing everything. Not everything doesn't have the, why is it that in Jamaica everything is always, you know, between two political parties? Why can't we just be Jamaicans dying? It's a concern for everybody. It must be a concern. You know, Jamaica is a very scary place to live. And we want to see a solution to the problem. We don't want to see political representatives casting stones, blaming one side or dividing it between orange and green. We're tired of that now, you know. And this is crime. This is people are dying. People are dying, and this is what she had to say. And I know that probably her defense, as I said, will be that she was at her constituency meeting. But the thing is, media was there.
Yeah.
You have to be careful. You have to be aware. You have to measure and consider what you say, because if they say the world is you know, it's a village, it's a global village. Jamaica's an island. It's a very small place. Word gets around, and here it is. She made this damning statement, this incendiary statement, and you and I, we weren't there, but the media was there, and the media reported it.
Right. Mr. Patterson, give us your take?
I agree with everything that Ms. Mattis has just said. But it comes back to something we have been talking about for a while here on this channel. The two major political parties are a part of a system which you can only describe with three words: divide, distract, and extract. Three words: divide, distract, and extract. So what Mrs. Holness was doing was simply carrying out the playbook that we have been suffering for the last 78 years. The playbook of the colonial masters was to get us to be divided among ourselves, to use partisan politics to distract us, while a few among us extract our wealth away from us. The real issue that they will not address is the fact that our people, we unfortunately have suffered from a history of slavery, a history of colonialism, a history which has left us destitute of our lands, and having lost the value of hundreds of years of our labor. And so what these two political parties were supposed to do upon getting control of our governance, getting control of our country's political system, getting control of our country's resources, what they were supposed to have done over that 70-year period was to organize a system whereby they would have made the Jamaican people, all of us, every single family, the result of slavery, all of us who have been impacted by this, make us property owners. Instead, they have come up with myriad ways of scamming us. Different ideas, different talking points, different programs, all of which have led to Jamaicans suffering greatly. Right now in Jamaica, over 20% of our population are designated as squatters. You're talking about over 500,000 Jamaicans who are living in squalid conditions, who are living on the margins, who are living in fear, living in stress, knowing that they don't have tenure on the land that they occupy, not being sure how much they can build with certainty. Do you know what that does to a family? How it grates at their minds and prevent them from becoming highly productive and very stable? This has been the basis for undermining Jamaica's economy for years. It has been the basis for much of the crime that we have. And let us never forget that the Jamaica that we see today is the direct result of these two parties. They were the ones who constructed the garrisons and the gangs. In fact, both of them, are responsible for causing many persons to be living as squatters. This is not a today problem. If you go back in the history of Jamaica from the first election in 1944 until now, these two parties have been doing things that gets the Jamaican people into the position we're in now. They have single-handedly orchestrated the creation of what they call squatter communities. They have done these things to build electoral numbers in different divisions and different constituencies. They have what they're now claiming that they're trying to get rid of is what they create. And they're not trying to get rid of it. What they're trying to get rid of is the people who stand in the way of their looting Jamaica. So whenever they find it feasible or reasonable or to their best interest, those who back them, those who fund their parties, they simply push the pawns off the board. It's like a chessboard, eh? And they simply eat up the pawns or the pawns. These people that they have kept marginalized educationally and economically, and then play them and play with them and discard them as they see fit. It's time for we, the Jamaican people, to get up and step up and say, enough of this. We are going to be one Jamaica, united, strong, and free. We're no longer going to be divided by green or orange, PNP or JLP. We're going to be united as Jamaicans. They know it's hard for us to do this because they've taught us to be divisive. They've also made us dependent and weak by having the rich fund their political parties to give handouts at election times and to fool us and trick us into continuing to vote for them. But the time for that to end is now, and we have to come together and make that happen.
Okay, so why, having said all of that, the average Jamaican is living in conditions that are subpar. They're barely making ends meet. They are, as Mr. Patterson said, 20% is 20% of our population is living in squatter settlements or squatter communities. Many people are not able to afford a house or a home. Why shouldn't they just continue to live in the conditions that they have? You know, why shouldn't they just try to eke out something for themselves? Why should they be concerned about the political aspect of things? Because it's not working out for them anyway. For either one of you can answer that question.
Well, if you look at it, if you consider it, 67% of people are not taking part. They're not taking part in the electoral process, so they're withdrawn. They don't care, and what that tells me is that they're trying to survive in whatever way that, you know, within the system. They're not trying to change it. They have given up on changing it, and they're just trying to survive. So, granted, they may not be the people who are squatting, but the majority of Jamaicans, they just don't care anymore. The people who are landless, I don't like to call them squatters. I think it is derogatory. Coming out of the history of emancipation, where we were 100 years of free labor, we were thrown off the plantation with no support, no financial support. Where were the slaves, the ex-slave people to live? So I think that land rights is or land ownership is a basic human right. You know, I think that every Jamaican a piece of Jamaica. It has been derelict of both we the people and the political parties that since 1962, let's start from there, when we got independence, that issue of land was not on any political platform. It has never been. It should have been. It should have been an issue, because each political party comes with a commitment to empower people, to make things better for them. And if land is wealth, if land gives you some sort of empowerment, then as I said, it should have been a part of every political election platform, you know. So it says to me then that both sides are not really concerned, as you know, as Mr. Patterson was saying, that both sides are not really concerned with with people's welfare. It's a power struggle. It's a power struggle between both sides, and we the people, we get left behind. You know, nobody with promises. We get promises, and we've been having promises for 60 years now, with no fulfillment of those promises.
Well,
So
Miss Mathis, I have to say, I'm not going to give them a free pass on the 18 years before independence. In the 1930s, the Jamaican people, without the leadership of either parties, aggressively fought for their rights. In fact, you might have heard of the Frome riots back in the early 1930s, where Bustamante hijacked the riots and put himself at the front of it and took kind of ownership. So the Jamaican people have always been trying to fight for their rights, but they were woodwinked. You might recall that the Honorable Marcus Garvey, a person that can truly be called honorable, tried. He created a political party. He championed the cause of the people. He championed the cause of land rights. He championed the cause of fair wages and proper working conditions. And the colonial masters, they saw what was happening. They saw that a black man had arisen that was going to lead the people to truly fight for real freedom, true liberty. And so what they did was to orchestrate the creation of one and then two fake political parties, meaning parties that suggested that they were there to help the masses, but in reality, they were there to protect the status quo. And if you look carefully at it, you would have seen, even to this day, you will see that both parties are very committed to keeping us under the crown, keeping us within the colonial system, keeping us within the so-called Commonwealth. You'll notice that they both are very, very careful to show the greatest degree of respect for the so-called royal family. And they will mourn for their loss while paying scant regard to the loss of the Jamaican people. They will roll out the red carpet for them and paint the place up and fix the place up for their arrival. But they will allow us to live in a garbage-ridden, dirty, unkept environment. So I have seen clearly that over the entire 78 years, from 1944, when we first elected the Jamaica Labour Party, thinking that we had the right to vote, thinking that this new right to vote meant empowerment, instead it was merely a trick. And that trick has gone on now for 78 years. And the more and more they've been doing it to us, it brought us to the place that you described, where today, 63% of us did not participate in the last election. 52% in the election before that did not participate. So Jamaicans are opting out of the system. But why are they opting out? One, they realize that it doesn't matter which of the two they vote for, it's still the same outcome. Also, but another reason why life is so difficult and painful for them that what you find is only the most hardened tribalists are participating in the process. For the most part, the hardworking people who are not depending on politics for any form of handout, who are just trying to eke out an existence, they are more and more withdrawing from the process. Some use it for entertainment. They just watch it and look at the entertainment and so on. But generally, the people have given up hope. They have lost any kind of expectation that this system of governance and these two political parties can ever bring Jamaica to where they think it should be. In fact, right now, Jamaica is the second poorest country in the Caribbean when it used to be the richest country in the Caribbean. Jamaica is one of the most murderous nations in the world. When it used to be, if you go back to our statistics in 1962, we were much safer than many other places. So clearly, the longer we keep voting for these two parties and maintaining the system that they embrace, the system of governance that they embrace, the system that they have now gotten us to become used to, the longer we preserve their system and allow them to continue to run our government, is the more we're slipping down a slope that is going to take us completely to where Haiti is and possibly worse.
Yes, so question here. How do we change that? How do the people of Jamaica change what's happening? Because I mean, clearly we can't depend on the two political parties to do that. What can we do as a people to change this?
Before I allow Ms. Mathis to respond to that, I just want to say something based on the comments I'm seeing in the comment section. Let's be very clear. No Jamaican who has not occupied a private property of someone else is a squatter. Okay? So let us not call our fellow citizens squatters. Those persons, and there are about, I think there are some 500 to 600 so-called squatter communities. 70% of those are on so-called government lands. None of those lands belong to the government. There's no land in Jamaica that belongs to the government, not even 1 inch of it. There's no land in Jamaica that belongs to the crown, not even 1 inch of it. All of the land in Jamaica belongs to the people of Jamaica. The problem we have is that the government of Jamaica has not designed a transparent, clear, well-articulated design that would allow every Jamaican to take hold of their birthright property. Instead, they have played politics with our land, use it to manipulate us, and has been selling it out without our consent. They've allowed foreign companies to come in, for example, and destroy our land, destroy our health, destroy our water table. Every day that we allow bauxite mining in Jamaica is a day that we're losing land that can never be replenished, land that they're poisoning, potential damage to our waterways that may not be reversible, plus the consequence of the byproducts that get into our lungs and into our farming communities and undermine our food security and our healthcare system and our health. So we have a government that is pretending in many instances to care, but have policies and laws which are designed to systematically destroy the Jamaican people without us even knowing that they're doing it. So the time has come for us to get serious about taking charge of our land. What bothers me though is the large number of intellectuals we have. I hear them on the radio every day. You know, you have the Cliff Hughes of the world who come on and they talk so polished and so nice and so sweet, and they can argue with the poor ignorant people who come on their programs and try to talk with them, but they're not polished as they are. They don't know how to fully articulate themselves, and they just twist them up and play with them. And you have them go on, all of them, and I've seen it for years, and they talk and talk and talk, but they never get together and let's stop this from happening. Well, we're going to do it. That's why we have the United Independence Congress of Jamaica. We're bringing together all the independent thinkers in the country and around the world, because Jamaica is bigger than just us here. We have nearly 4 million Jamaicans living in other countries who want a better Jamaica. So we're pulling together all of these people and we're uniting these people to say once and for all, let us put aside what they have used to divide us, and let's unite around our desire for good governance in our country and save our people, save our land, and restore the heritage to the people to whom it belongs.
Ms. Mattis?
Yes. First of all, I'd just like to say when I started at dated it at 1962, I meant that we have not insisted, the voters, the electorates have not. I know that we understand that land ownership is a major concern, but the right to land, the right of every Jamaican to own land, we have not, as the electorate, insisted that both political parties address that issue since we have been governing ourselves, then call it, since 1962. It is very interesting, Mr. Patterson, that you mentioned that about crown lands, belonging not to the crown as some people believe, because the crown is just a figurehead. It's just a figurehead. The land belongs, as you said, to the people. The government is the largest landowner. It owns 20% of 22% of the land, and I think the figure for squatters is 20% of the people are squatting on government land. It's as I said, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the CARICOM, the Caribbean governments, have joined this movement for reparations from the UK. But it has been my opinion that reparations can start here, right at home. They can start by divesting themselves of those crown lands, because it's not land that belongs to them. That land, that 22% that they own, it does not belong to them. If anything, it is ill-gotten gains. They are benefiting from colonialism. They're benefiting from enslavement. So it's really hypocritical that they have proceeds from slavery and they are going to ask Britain for reparations. And I'm not saying that reparations is wrong. I'm a staunch supporter of reparations. They call for reparations, but I think one area where they could, before they even go to England, there should be land distribution. Divest themselves of that land. Give it to the people that it belongs. As I said, it rightfully belongs to the people, because the land was owned by the Tainos. The Spanish came and they expropriated that land, and it passed to the English, and divulge to the Jamaican state in call it then in their care. They need to free themselves of that land and give it to the people, so we can have this. We can get rid of this, or begin to address this matter of squatting. As I said, I don't like to call them the people squatters, because they have a rightful, they have a right, a basic human right to own a place of their own in Jamaica.
I want to bring our attention to something very important. The current law that we have in Jamaica says that if you're squatting on crown lands, you have to be squatting there for 60 years before the land can possibly be granted to you. If you are supposedly squatting on government land, the time period is 12 years. before. If you have been on it continuously for 12 years, then the law is in your favor. It's not a done deal, but it's in your favor that you can, gain title to this land if it's for 12 years. The same applies to private land. If you capture somebody's private property and you have been on it for 12 years and nobody has interrupted you, again, it is easier for you to gain title to that land. Now, the Prime Minister's solution to the so-called squatting problem in Jamaica, he wants to change the law so that if you are squatting on government land, it will also be 60 years. As well as, so he wants to bring it to the same number of years as Crown lands. Now, it clearly shows you the mindset of the Prime Minister. So you can understand why his wife said what she did. They're not here to fix the problem, ladies and gentlemen. They are the problem. They're here to continue and maintain the problem of colonialism. Everything that these two parties do are consistent with the colonial behavior. The colonial masters, the only way they can keep a people subdued is by dividing them. That is why Mrs. Holness wants to entrench and ignite and cause the division. The colonial masters, for them to keep the people under control, they have to distract them. They use all manner of distraction. And for example, they divide them into house slave and field slave. They give preference to those who snitch on the others. They give some little benefits and then some they punish if they're not doing the right thing and behaving the right way. The very same thing. They have given favoritism to those who supported their parties, and then they punish those who don't support their parties. They have brought guns into this country and give to people to defend their territories and to expand their voting territories, and they have caused us to kill each other. That's why today our police are committing extrajudicial killing, because it's now a part of our culture to do these things. So these two parties, they know exactly what they're doing. They come and pretend before us like they're trying to solve our problems. They're not trying to solve our problems. Here's how they can solve our problems overnight. First and foremost, admit to the Jamaican people without any mincing of words that this land belongs to every single Jamaican. It does not belong to the government. That's the first step. And step number 2, admit that they have failed for the last 7 to 8 years to design a program to give the Jamaican people their property. And number 3, make it very clear that when you're not a property owner, you're not free. It's only free people who own land. It's only free people who have property. And that is why they have kept the Jamaican people outside of property ownership for as long as they possibly can. And they have no intention, even when they create NHT, which many people, say, wow, what a wonderful, great program. And it sounded like a good program. It has gotten them many votes over the years. But how has the NHT worked? It has worked to get 100% to forcibly contribute to the plan, but only 25% would ever possibly benefit, which means you're tricking and lying to the 75% who will never ever benefit from this process. So all of their programs, no matter how nice they sound, no matter how sweet the promise, it's always a switch and bait. It's always a trick designed to send the fool a little further. And they have fooled us and fooled us and fooled us and fooled us for 78 years. And my question to my fellow Jamaicans is, how long? How much longer are you going to sit there and allow them to fool us again and again and again? I say the time is up. Mark Golding said time come. Yes, time come for us to get rid of the two of them. Their time is up. It's time for us now to say, listen, we see the game, we see the trick, we understand what you do, and we're not going to allow it any further. We must make it clear to Mr. Holness, we don't want him to change the law from 12 years to 60 years to deny Jamaican their land. We want you to give the Jamaican people their land right titles right now. And if you can't do it, move out and allow the UIC to do what we have always promised in our manifesto, to make every Jamaican a property owner. We have the formula. We have the methodology. We have taken the time to think about and plan for the benefit of the Jamaican people, while they have taken the time to think about and plan for how to benefit the PSOJ and those who have been funding their parties for the last several years.
Mr. Patterson, question. So the UIC has, said in their manifesto, they plan to return the land to the Jamaican people. How do you go about doing that? I mean, without going into details, of course, but a summary of how does the UIC plan on carrying out this manifesto? Or this
first of all, I love to begin by telling a story. It's a simple story. There's a group of people in a small country called Singapore on a small plot of land about the size of St. Thomas. They have nearly twice the amount of people living on that small plot of land. Think about it. They have nearly 6 million people living on a plot of land the size of St. Thomas. Catch that. St. Thomas means that Jamaica is 15 times the size of Singapore. They have 6 million people, and they have been able to make over 90% of them property owners. Do you follow that? Singapore has been able to make over 90% of their population of nearly 6 million people living on an island or a bunch of islands that is no greater than the size of St. Thomas. We have 15 times that landmass, and we only have 3 million people. That means, in theory, Jamaica can hold 90 million people in this land. As much as they have taught us in social study and history class or whatever to think of Jamaica as being very small, I want you to see how big Jamaica is. If little Singapore, with nearly 6 million people, can make 90% of their population property owners, and they have done that in the first 25 to 30 years of their independence, which happened in 1965. We got independence in 1962. They got independence 3 years after us in 1965. And within 30 years, they made the vast majority of their citizens property owners. How did they do it? Their brilliant leader, Lee Kuan Yew, sat down and formulated a housing board, just like how we put together NHT, which is a waste of time and a joke, which have cost us billions of dollars stolen by the government while robbing us forcibly by taking that money out of our pockets. He instead put together a housing board that designed a housing solution that made the Singaporean people able to access very affordable, high-quality homes. You hear me? Affordable, high-quality homes. Those two words don't normally go together. And he also made sure he didn't design a Tivoli. He didn't design a failed community. He designed successful communities with all the amenities, parks, play areas, daycare, police services, all kinds of social services built into those communities, and a mix of rich, middle income, and so-called poor. In fact, Singapore don't really have poor per se, because they have moved their people up. So they have used a very, very successful model, and they did it at the same time when we were wasting the Jamaican people's time, right? Think from 1962, 30 years from that, where were we? And now 30 more years from that, 60 years, where are we? And they have done it 30 years, 35 years ahead of us. At the same time, under the same geopolitical circumstances, a former colony of England, which was worse off than us, and they were able to build a successful program. The UIC has carefully studied their program, like we have done in many other countries. I have had the privilege to travel to a number of countries. I've worked with over 120 of them, and I've seen how we can do this quite successfully. On top of that, the UIC has a program that we call Making Jamaica the Organic Food Capital of the World. Again, we studied other countries. I went to the Netherlands a number of times and look at how is it a small European country, very small European country, with winter. They don't have our blessed sunshine of 12 months a year. our beautiful rivers, and our beautiful landscape. They're mostly flat and below sea level. They're always prone to be destroyed by flooding. And yet still, they have designed their country to understand nature and to respond to nature positively. We continue to be fearful every year and to be impacted because we don't plan for what nature will bring. They have designed themselves so well that the Netherlands is the second largest producer and exporter of food in the world, second only to the US with over 350 million people. The US has over 350 million people. They only have 17 million people in their small, winterized European country. And they have been able to outpace the world in food production. We can do just as good here in Jamaica if we have the leadership and if we have brilliant minds running our government and not these pia ones that are committed to stealing rather than building. So we are going to build and make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world, and through that, create more than 500,000 jobs. Combining that with making Jamaica a tourism destination like no other, by making all of Jamaica an all-inclusive tourist destination, which actually gives the people of Jamaica an environment that smells, look, and feel like a tourist resort because we respect ourselves. And in the same breath, we will now be able to host and welcome 10 times the amount of tourists we're welcoming now, and have that money flow into our communities and help us to build this new Jamaica we're talking about. In fact, when we're finished, Jamaica is going to have a 98% property ownership rate. We're going to make every Jamaican that wants to be a property owner a property owner. I'm not going to tell you all the details because Andrew is going to steal it like he has done with all the others we have put out there so far. And he's going to lie, he's going to misrepresent it, and he's going to cause the people to think that we're just like them by saying, oh, we hear that already. Well, they haven't heard it already from them. They're not prepared to make Jamaica financially independent. They're not prepared to make Jamaica food independent. They're not prepared to make Jamaica energy independent. They're not prepared to make Jamaica water independent. And we're going to do it because we're committed to the Jamaican people and not to the PSOJ, because they don't fund our party. We're funded by the people.
A question here by Patriotic Vibes, Mr. Patterson. Says, I am always curious on how the UIC will accomplish that land distribution. Property owner or landowner, Mr. Patterson?
Right, so we're very clear. We're going to make all Jamaicans a property owner. A part of our solution is to make sure that all Jamaicans are shareholders in the land. So, in any land distribution program you're going to develop, you have to come up with a mechanism. Our mechanism is threefold. One, we're going to make sure that all Jamaicans become shareholder in the productive lands. So we're going to make sure we bring all of our lands under production that should be under production. Right now we have a whole lot of agricultural lands that are, one, not under production, or two, being inappropriately used for residential lots. We're going to stop that as quickly as possible, reverse what we can, and preserve those lands, because we must become food secure. We cannot build on our farmlands and expect to become food secure. So we're going to preserve those. Those productive lands will be owned by the Jamaicans as shareholders, in the same way a country that has oil pays a dividend to the people individually for the oil that is produced. We're going to make Jamaicans shareholders in all of the land. So as the land produce, you get your dividends, your profit from that coming to you, almost like a social security check or a benefit check, if you will, coming to you. Once you are a Jamaican who has paid your taxes, filed your taxes, you are going to be getting your check from the land. You may not be a farmer yourself. Not everybody wants to farm. So we're going to make sure that those who want to farm are a part of what we'll now call the farming complex. Just like how you have the weapons industry in the US, where a lot of people are making money from weapons, we're going to make money from farming. We're going to do it well. We're going to do it right. We're going to do it technologically. We're going to do it at a massive level. We're going to do it on the level of the Netherlands, not plating farming anymore. We're talking about very, very high quality, organic farming that will make Jamaica the organic food capital of the world, exporting organic foods to every other country that we can reach, okay? But the people of Jamaica will be the shareholders in that. So you're going to benefit from your land being producing for you. Companies will be here, massive companies with significant infrastructure. You're talking about greenhouses, you're talking about hydroponic systems, you're talking about permaculture systems, all kinds of systems here on a grand level using Israeli technology, Netherlands technology, Jamaica's technology, building our own agricultural university here that is completely dedicated to agriculture, where we master all of the techniques of bringing out maximum yield from minimum resource consumption. So you're talking about a new Jamaica, all kind of jobs, not just the physical farming job. You're talking about the scientific jobs, you're talking about the engineering jobs, you're talking about the accounting jobs, the administration jobs, the business jobs, the marketing jobs, the technology jobs, lots of jobs, high level farming we're talking about now. So you may not want to do that as a person, but you're going to be an owner, a part owner, because you're a Jamaican in that. So shareholder side. On the other side now, we're putting up the housing using the brilliance that we've learned from other countries, how to make affordable housing and make sure every Jamaican has access at below market price to own one of those and pay it off over the capacity of their earning. If you have a low earning capacity, you will have what is called an intergenerational mortgage that allows you to get the benefit now of a good quality home that you can pass on to your children, okay? And we'll gradually build out that housing stock as the population density changes. We'll follow the statistics and work accordingly. And we've seen how it's done before. So we're going to do the same thing here. So bottom line is you're going to have property, not necessarily a piece of land, unless you really want a piece of land and it works within the context. You get that if you're a farmer and you want to do that. If you already have a house, if it's unfinished, the program will help you to finish that house, even expand it so you can have rental property as well, or whatever, or Airbnb capacity, but make your dwelling work. If you're in a so-called squatter community, we come in, do the assessment and rearrange to put in the infrastructure that's missing. We may have to move a few homes. Of course, we're going to compensate you and put in another allocation. No bulldozing and just pushing you out. Working with you to redevelop that zone to use it properly. If it's encroaching on key areas or dangerous areas, then we will explain to you and help you to transition to a more safe and secure way. We're not going to call you JLP or PNP. We're not going to denigrate you. We're not going to disrespect you and insult you. We're going to treat you like you should be treated, a Jamaican citizen worthy of respect. We're going to respect you because you should be respected. We're not going to talk down to you, and we're not going to push you around, and we're not going to bulldoze you.
Well said, Mr. Patterson. All right, so we're coming to the end of the show. Any last words, Ms. Mattis, Mr. Patterson? Well, I know Mr. Patterson has said a lot already. Any last words, Ms. Mattis?
Well, I long to see, I want to see a Jamaica where, let's just say, I long to see that Jamaica where everybody can be proud of, being born here, living here, and we will make here home. And I think part of that is, I think land is a part of that. The politics is a part of that. We need to change that. We need to change the mindset. I mentioned earlier about the 67% of the people who have withdrawn from the system, and that's not good. They need to get back into the system. They don't like either of the political parties, but just withdrawing and staying into your house whenever there's an election and wearing your uncommitted voter as a badge, that's not helping. Because what it is doing, it has left elections to be contested between the two the grassroots of the two parties. This current administration that we are under, there's a question of legitimacy, because it's only 33% of the people who went to the polls. That means this government, this JLP government, if you split that, then that 33% between both political parties, maybe the JLP the JLP government is got 20% of that 33%, and they are what is bad, and it's because of the Westminster model that we refuse to leave, as the Patterson said about their, I don't know what to call it, but their commitment to the crown and to the Westminster model. What it means is that this government, the government is making far-reaching decisions on what is really a questionable vote, because they're not a legitimate government. They're legal because it's first past the post. So whatever you get, whoever gets the majority forms the government. But it is not a majority government, and that is one of the things that we need to change. If we should move to Republican status, you need to get at least a clear majority. It cannot be that a government that came in on say maybe 17 or whatever percentage of the vote is making. The pandemic was the clearest indication of how of the abuse being meted out to Jamaican people on a government that is not legitimate. And I maintain that they may be legal, as I said, under the Westminster model, because they got the majority, but they are the majority that they got isn't the majority. Then it's not a majority.
Yeah, they only got 21%. They got 21% of the total possible vote. So we have a government that is ruling us, that is hurting us, that is making sweeping changes and selling our assets. By the way, they're selling our assets. They're selling our lands. They're giving away our land.
Yes, they're selling our land. They're taking our beaches. That's another issue for another time. They're taking our beaches. They're giving our lands as gift to foreigners.
They're signing away our rights. They're signing deals every day with China and other countries, and making commitments with only 21%. And the opposition is no better. The opposition is even worse. They only got 16% of the total population. So together, they account, as you said, 37%. The 63% of us have not voted for them. We don't want them. Now, you talked about reparation earlier. If you don't mind, Mr. Harper, Ms. Mattis talked about reparation. And when people hear about reparation, they think about the colonial masters who robbed our people, raped our people, abducted our people, and all of that. But the two parties in Jamaica owe the Jamaican people reparation. They owe us reparation because they have raped and robbed and pillaged this nation. Right now, we owe $2 trillion, which they borrowed on our head, wasted and stolen, and we are now forced to pay back. Right now, every tax dollar we pay, at least 33 cents of that goes to pay back a debt which we did not benefit from. Just imagine if somebody came and took out a debt in your name, Ms. Mattis, took out a mortgage in your name, You had no idea that they did this. And they used let's say you had a house, and they used your house as collateral to get that debt, which is you, by the way. The debt is on your head. And then they now defaulted on the debt. And you now every month have to go to work and work hard to pay off a mortgage for a house you do not own. Instead, those who defaulted on it, they have the house that you're paying for. They have the mansion on a hill. They have the massive house on a hill. They're enjoying the fruits of your labor, and they're forcing you and me to pay back $2 trillion while we are suffer bad road, while we are suffer bad education, while we are suffer bad health care, while we are suffer massive crime caused by the social decay and the economic decay that they created and left that burden, and then tell us about we have to suffer. They tell us over the years, you know this more than me, they told us to ban our belly. Every single one of them come in an office from 1944 to 1962 to 1972 to 1982 to 1992 to 2022, all of them telling us that we must suffer for the 2 trillion debt that they took out and build their mansions, created their pensions, send their picnic to foreign school, paid for their overseas hospital bills. And we, the Jamaican people, must pay for their $2 trillion debt. That is the biggest crime ever, and we demand our reparation now. But they won't pay it. They will not of their own accord pay it. So we have to make them pay it by kick them out of office, investigate them backside, and find them out and show it in an audit what they have done to the Jamaican people, and let the people string them up for what they have done to them. I want the Jamaican people to fire them and let us have a forensic audit. Go through the books, find the $50 million that some of them thief and go to Privy Council and talk about they want to get off. Find the 130 million that others thief. Find where some people get the money to be at 50 years old and never work a day in their life and have house that you take about 1,500 Jamaicans to work and pay off for that house. We need to get to the bottom of their ill-gotten gains, and the only way to do that is to fire them backside and get in there and check out the numbers and tell the Jamaican people what they've done. Sorry, Mr. Harper.
No, well said, Mr. Patterson. So guys, we've come to the end of our show. I just want to thank you all for coming on. Please do remember that we have a campaign going on now called No Squat on a Day Again. This is tied to the whole land issue, of course. The UIC, as you've heard Mr. Patterson state this evening, strongly believes in, the land, that believes that the land belongs to the people. And as the UIC, when the UIC becomes government, we will ensure that this land is given back to the people. But even before then, we want people to understand that the land is yours. The land isn't the government's, the land isn't the crown's, the land is yours. And so part of that education campaign is through our No Squat on a Day Again campaign. Anything to add to that, Mr. Patterson?
Just want to say that we need to check with the people and see what they give us as a score for our program tonight, whether they think it's good or not. But before you go there, I want to just say that we must not allow Mrs. Holness to get away with this. We must not allow Andrew Holness to get away with what he has done to the people of Clifton and what he's doing to the people of Lloydersville, Pleasant Hill. Right now, you have 60 families in Pleasant Hill. Right now, 60 families that are living in terror, in fear. Their own government is terrorizing them. Some of them have lived on that land for 60 years, 50 years. Their family have lived in those homes. Those people, Mr. Harper, those people have worked hard and saved their money and buy a little 100 block. They buy a little bit of steel, a little bit of sand. You know how hard it is, and they pay a truckman to come drop it off, and they build little. They build, it takes all 30 years, 40 years to build an incomplete structure. The wall no render, the wall no paint. John Joe grew up on it from all the rainfall that come. Dirt floor inside. They live in some houses without bathroom. They have no proper toilet facility. The old pit that was dug by their great-great-grandfather is the same pit that they're using today. And the pit now are getting to the point of overflowing. It's backing up into their house. The stench from the sewage is coming into their kitchen when they're cooking. These are the people. These are the people Andrew Holness want to go and demolish. They have worked so hard. Them not have no big education. Them not have no big university degree. Nobody not there. Them come to them for voting. They come to them when it's time for election. And them go and sit down in the squatter house with them when it's time for election. They roll up them sleep, them foot, and walk through river to go to them to get their vote at election time. And now they want to destroy and demolish the people that them keep poor. That them didn't give a good primary school, a good basic school education. That them didn't give a good secondary school education. I remember when we have shift system and holy power in a one class, 40 children in a one class to one teacher. Not enough teachers, or they're using pre-trained teachers that are not even competent and qualified to teach properly. This is the Jamaica that they created in 1962 when they borrow money to build school, them thief half of the money and build only half of the schools and cause us to suffer. They created the kind of Jamaica that we see today. The people who come out of those school systems, the mothers and fathers who come out, the girls and boys who got pregnant or got baby too soon because they weren't educated enough and educated properly and have enough opportunities. So they go home and sit in a yard for 5 years, can't find no work until they become unemployable. And them try a little thing with them machete and try to eke out a living. Then go work on Worthy Park Estate and chop cane and try to survive, and then find a little piece of land. Maybe they were given the spot by the backroom master then, and so they were there, and then they're there for a long time. 5 years passed, 10 years passed. Them come see Papi Dede and Grandpa and Grandma Dede, and them just start to build up a little something. And Andrew got there now and threatened the people that by December 6th, him going to come and bulldoze them if them don't come out of them house. And they go there and tell us about criminal up at Clifton. Call the people them criminal. Yes, who are the criminals? Are them put the criminals down there? Who more than them buy guns and give to our young boys and girls and turn them into dons and criminals and gangs, Miss Mattis? Who more than them did that? Is them create Tivoli? Is them create Rima? Is them create Jungle? Is them create all of them things here in the country? And then turn around now and blame the people them, and I hurt the people them, and I punish the people them for what them do. No, man, we can't allow this. On December 6th, we must go up there. We must make sure we go up there. We, the Jamaican people, from east and west and north and south, let us get on some buses. And we must make sure when Andrew come with him police and him soldier them, when him come with him demolition machines, we must be there to be a human shield to stand between him and the people, with the people, for the people, against the government, which is the enemy of the people. We must stop him, we must stop them, and we must get rid of both of them. Don't make Markham fool know about legal this and legal that. Don't make Andrew come and fool about hugging up after him demolishing them. We must stand against them, and we must make sure that by the next election, not one PNP or JLP seat sits in the parliament of our government, and not one PNP or JLP seat sits in our council in any of the municipality. We must empty those chairs, wash them out with J's, with Ajax, with every kind of cleanser you can find, Dettol, everything. Wipe off those chairs, wipe out the memory of them, clear our country of their despicable leadership, and put some good leadership in this country and fix the country up and make every Jamaican a property owner with a safe, clean, and orderly, decent Jamaica, what we deserve and what they're not able and will never be able to give us because they're not working for us. End of story. Argument done now, Mr. Andrew.
Drop mic. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Miss Mattis, did you have anything to add?
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed the discussion.
Okay. Thanks for coming on. We enjoyed that. We enjoyed the discussion as well. And thank you, Mr. Pattison, as well, for coming on.
My pleasure.
So thanks, guys. And remember, guys, one Jamaica, stronger together.
One Jamaica. Stronger together. And by the way, let's think out of the box, okay, guys? It's time for us to think out of the box. No more partisan politics. It's unity time now. Let's come together and create one Jamaica for all Jamaicans because we're stronger together. Take care. Good night. All the best. See you tomorrow.
Right.